Welcome to our webinar, How to Crush the Competition with Inbound Marketing. We are thrilled to be hosting this event. Today we are joined by a very special presenter, HubSpot CEO and co-founder, Brian Halligan. Brian is the author of 2 books, Marketing Lessons from the Grateful Dead and Inbound Marketing. Brian also teaches a marketing course at MIT and was named an Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year.
Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. Just thrilled to be able to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, inbound marketing and how to use inbound marketing to bury your competition. Should be an interesting session. These are the topics that I'm going to cover today. First topic is around really the transformation that's going on in the marketing world. It's a topic that I've covered before. Just going to do a refresher on it. Second topic is around how to become a tofu titan. Tofu is my shortened name for top of the funnel. And what this section is going to be all about is how do you turn your business into a magnet for visitors on the web? How do you suck people in on the web like crazy? The third section, Master Your MOFU. MOFU is the middle of the funnel, and it's really about once you got a visitor to your website or to your Facebook page or Twitter, how do you convert those visitors into leads and customers in a really efficient, new, and interesting way? And a lot of this stuff in this section is stuff I really haven't talked about before. It's brand new. Fourth section's around, given the fact that marketing is changing so much, what are some kind of tips and techniques for building a world-class sort of modern marketing team? Whether you're in a little tiny business, it's just yourself, or a big company, I've got some tips on how you can think about building a next-generation marketing team that allows you to bury your competition. And the last section is around some metrics I track myself vis-a-vis competitors on, how am I doing against them? How do I know if I'm winning or losing? How do I track that kind of thing? And I've got some, I think, kind of unique ways of looking at that using some of our tools. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to buzz through it. This webinar should take less than an hour, I would think. So the first section's really on inbound. It's about the transformation that's happening in marketing today. And I really have 2 very simple observations about marketing that have led me to all this stuff around HubSpot. The first observation really came to me prior to my starting HubSpot, and it was around, I was a venture capitalist before starting HubSpot, and I invested in technology companies and tried to help them grow. And my observation was that pretty much every company in the world uses sort of the same, what I call, marketing playbook. They do lots of advertising. Many of them buy a list and they'll cold call. They'll mail stuff to people. They'll do email blasts pretty aggressively. And that playbook's been in place for quite a long time. My issue with that playbook is that I think people like us here on the phone today, we're sick and tired of being marketed and sold to, and humans are getting increasingly sophisticated at blocking traditional marketing out, whether that's your DVR block on the telephone, the television ads, or caller ID, blocking out the cold calls, or spam protection, blocking out the emails. Just in general, the tide seems to be shifting against marketers and salespeople. It's just hard as heck to reach people today. And that's kind of my first observation about what's changing. The second observation is that I think the fundamental way that humans live and learn and shop and spend their lives has radically changed just in the last couple of years. And I try to show this with the 2 pictures on the screen. The picture on the left is a picture of my dad, Bob Halligan. And I just think of the inputs into my dad's day. He was an executive at GE and then GTE for a long time. He worked at BBN. And, he watched television. We're based in Boston, so he had 6 stations, 2, 4, 5, 7, 38, 56. He got 2 newspapers, the Morning Globe and the Daily Transcript in the afternoon. He got some phone calls, and he got a lot of mail. And that's sort of the input into his brain from different sources. And I just think about myself, and there's just this avalanche of information coming at me. I also watch television, but I've got 500 or 600 stations. I follow a couple thousand people on Twitter, I use RSS, and I subscribe to a couple hundred blogs. I'm connected to a couple thousand people on LinkedIn. I use Google Plus now, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. It's just the way I spend my life really is quite different than the way my dad spent his life when he was working. And my idea for marketers is those two kind of big changes add up to a shift that needs to happen. The traditional marketing is outbound. It's how do you interrupt people with cold calls and direct mail, email blasts, stuff like that. And the new way to market is more how do you pull them in the new and natural way that they shop and learn. How do you pull them in from Google? How do you pull them in Google and Twitter and social media sites? How do you pull them in from the blogosphere? And the idea is that marketers, I think, need to transform the way they market to really match the way humans shop and learn and live today. And it turns out it's actually a very simple idea. And I think it's a very powerful idea, and this is the idea of inbound marketing. There's a couple things I like about inbound marketing. The first is that your success is much more about the width of your brain than the width of your wallet. You don't need a lot of money to be a successful marketer today. You need to be clever. And I'll give you an example. If you were starting a company, let's say 10 years ago, you could kind of buy your way to success. You could spend a lot of money on a PR firm who could get you introductions to journalists and get you some press. You could spend a lot of money on advertising. That stuff just doesn't work as well as it used to. No matter how much money you throw into advertising, people are getting really, really good at blocking it out. Today it's much more about, can I create interesting content? Do I have something remarkable to say, something that's shareable and spreadable? That's what makes you successful. So you don't need a lot of money. You can be a very small business. And there's a terrific New Yorker cartoon that I didn't use here, but I really like, where there's a dog typing on the internet, and there's another dog sort of looking over that dog's shoulder, and the dog typing on the internet says, the great thing about the internet is nobody knows you're a dog. It's very true. No one really cares if you're ESPN or GE or some fancy brand. If you've got something remarkable to say or a remarkable product, my goodness, the internet can fill your sales with wind and really propel you. The other thing I really like about this modern marketing is it's all about leverage. Traditional marketing, marketers rent. They rent space on Google AdWords. They rent space in trade rags and journals. They rent lists and email to them. It's sort of a renting type of business. I think the future of marketing is more about ownership and building assets and growing those assets. And the way I sort of think about it is, let's say you're the CEO of Ford Motor Company. You've got assets on your balance sheet. You've got machine tools. You've got factories. You've got inventory. And what you want to do is grow your assets and get a better return on your assets. And as marketers, you've got assets. Your assets are, how many Twitter followers do you have? How many Facebook fans do you have? How big is your email list? How many pages do you have on your site? How many links into your site? How many keywords do you rank for? Et cetera, et cetera. Those are the things that are the modern marketing assets. And marketers need to shift, I think, the way they think. Less about renting their way to success and much more about building assets that create leverage over time. The leverage, I think, the marketing assets should grow in a way that's quite similar to interest in your 401k account or interest on your mortgage, that it's highly leverageable and scalable. Okay, so those are some of the things I think about modern marketing. And the basic message of the first section is really simple. You need to transform the way you market to really match nicely the way humans buy, shop, learn, and live. And that's a pretty big shift, actually. Second section of my talk today is around how do you turn your website, how do you turn your business into a magnet for interest, and how do you do that online? And I use this acronym TOFU, top of the funnel, top of the sales funnel. I'm not sure if you like it or not. I kind of like it. And the way you really do that is around content. The more content you create, the better off you are. You publish your way to success today as a marketer. The more remarkable, brilliant content you create, the more visitors you get. Each piece of content is like a mini magnet that pulls in customers into your site. The word remarkable is one I really like. I stole it from Seth Godin, What you want are other people remarking about the content you're creating. So think of yourself as a content creation factory. You're like a Disney. You're like a Time magazine. You're writing on your blog. You're creating YouTube content. You're pushing PowerPoint slides onto SlideShare, pictures onto Flickr. You want to be a content creation master. That's the real key to getting 10 times the number of visitors than your competition. This is an interesting picture. I like this picture a lot. Each dot on this picture is a website, and each line between each dot is a link. And the way I kind of think about it, links are to the Internet as dollars and cents are to the U.S. economy. And your website is on here somewhere. The big dots in the middle are sites that have a ton of links into them and have a ton of mojo. And the way I like to think about this, an analogy I like to use, is I'm doing the webinar today from Cambridge, Massachusetts. And if I think about Cambridge, Massachusetts, we have one highway that comes through it. There's no airport in Cambridge. There's no big train station in Cambridge. There's no big bus station in Cambridge. If you compare Cambridge, let's say, to New York City's got 100 big highways coming in and out of it. New York City's got giant bus stations, 2 giant train stations, and 3 huge airports. You want to turn your website from Cambridge, Massachusetts to New York City, and think of the highways going in and out. Those are like links from other websites and blogs. The bus stations like your Facebook, the train stations like your Twitter, the airports like your Google+. You want to turn your website into an absolute living, breathing magnet from links from other sites, and that's going to make you super, super successful. Now, let's talk about content. So our first step to turning your site into a magnet is creating lots of content. It's not just about content, though. It's about optimizing that content. And you really want to optimize your content for 2 things. The first thing you want to optimize for is search engines. So you want to write your content, particularly your titles, so they're very search engine friendly. And the second is really social media optimization. The problem with the changing nature of human behavior is we're inundated with content. So you have to write very clever titles that catch the people in the search engines and catch people in their Twitter feed or in their Facebook feed or in their RSS feed. So you want to spend half your time thinking about a brilliant title and half your time writing the content. If you write a brilliant article with a crappy title, no one will ever read it. If you write a crappy article with a brilliant title, it could spread really well. Now, this is the title of a piece of content we recently created, and there's 2 choices we could have. We could write the title as 100 charts, or we could say 100 awesome marketing stats, charts, and graphs. Personally, I think that second title, 100 awesome marketing stats and graphs, is brilliant, and it's brilliant for a couple of reasons. One, we've got the word marketing stats, marketing charts, marketing graphs in there, and we would like to rank in Google for each of those terms. And if that's in the title, Google looks very careful at that. The second is it's a little bit eye-catching. You think of all the content that comes across your desk every day through Facebook, through Twitter, through Google, through emails. It's an avalanche of content. You need a very catchy title to get people's attention to read it, and I think this is a catchy one. So it's optimized well for Google, SEO style, and SMO style. So let's talk a little bit about what makes a good title. We did an analysis, so we've got 6,000 customers at HubSpot, and most of them use us for blogging. We analyzed the millions of blog articles people have written on our platform, and the results are fascinating. The word in the titles of the articles that was most highly correlated with getting lots of visitors and links was the word insights, which I thought was fascinating. But other words like analysis, answers, product review, advice, those types of things that are unique insights or analysis really work well. And then on the bottom, recent news always works well, and that's hard to do. Let's say you're a head of marketing in a B2B software company. It's hard for you to break news, so some people are better at that than others. But the stuff that really works is when you come up with something remarkable, an insight, an analysis, an answer to questions, that no one's thought of before. And that's why I say marketing is very much about the width of your brain, not the width of your wallet today. Now, this next slide, this shows analysis. We analyze billions of different tweets that come through our platform. And I think this one's fascinating. This looks at the words in the tweets that are most highly retweeted. And I think they're absolutely fascinating. The things I like the most are the ones on the bottom. When you're saying, here's a blog post, you're saying how to do something, a new blog post, you're giving people help. It's stuff like that that really works when you're helping people out. And what we've noticed is people who are active in social media and just in social media and aren't contributing new content to the social media sphere, they do pretty well. But the people who create new content and are active in promoting it in the social media sphere, my goodness, it's like a 1 + 1 = 10, not a 1 + 1 = 3. It's that combination of remarkable content and activity in the social media sphere that really, really works. Okay? So step 1 is creating lots of content. Step 2 is optimizing it cleverly for Google and for social media. And the third is just getting very, very good at promoting that content in Twitter, in Facebook, in Google+, and all the different social media sites. And the way I like to think about this is, let's say as a marketer, you're used to hunting elephants in the jungle, and the elephants are your customers, and you've been hunting through the jungle, and you've been eating elephants your whole career. But something's changed. All those elephants have moved to the savannah, and they moved to different watering holes in the savannah. There's a watering hole for Google, watering hole for Facebook, watering hole for LinkedIn, and you need to get the heck out of the jungle and out to the savannah and eat your elephants out in the savannah. And these things on the right, those are the new watering holes. You need to get very, very smart at pulling people into these social media sites. And you should think of your website. You've got your website, your social media sites, you've got Google, you've got links, all of this stuff. This is your new website. It's not just the stuff on your pages that you can see and look at. It's what's happening in Twitter, in Facebook, in LinkedIn, in Google, in Bing. That's your new website. Think of it in a much broader context. Okay? People with me? Okay. So let's just do a little, I'm going to do some very, very, very lightweight math. I teach this class at MIT, and I do a module on viral marketing, and we use the math behind viruses, like from the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, to help model the way viral marketing works on the Internet. Now, my dirty little secret is I went to the University of Vermont to get my undergrad, and I majored in drinking beer, and I minored in smoking pot. And so you can be assured this is not going to be complicated math. This is going to be pot smoker math. So let me take you through it. So across the top there are the number of let's say, weeks in a cycle, and this is a disease. So in week 0, you're infected with the flu, okay? In that week, you run into 2 people. You run into your mom and your dad. Okay, that's the 2. Under that, you've got the 0.5. Of the 2 people you ran into, you transmitted the flu to your mom. So your mom's got the flu. Net new infections is 1 there on the bottom. The next week, you've got 2 people with the disease. Your mom runs into your sister Diane and your sister Colleen. Again, there's a 50% infection rate, So your sister Colleen gets the disease, and the next week there's 3, and so forth and so on. So at this rate, after 12 weeks, you've got 13 people with the flu. So what do we think about that? Is that a highly contagious disease, or is that kind of muted? That's right. It's not that interesting a disease. It grows relatively slowly. If you start at week 1 and there's only 13, it's just not that contagious. And this is like your content. If your blog content is kind of boring, uninteresting, is watered down by your lawyers, it's really hard to get a viral effect. Now let's talk about a couple of tweaks to your content that can make it much, much more viral. So let's say you don't have the regular flu. Let's say you get dengue fever, or you've got bird flu. Let's say you've got bird flu. So week number 1, you've got bird flu, and you run into 4 people that week, and you've got the same conversion rate, 50%, your net new infections, so you get 2 people infected with the disease, and then the following week you get 3. Those 2 new people run into 4 people each, 50% conversion rate. You get 4 new infections, and so forth and so on. What do we think about this disease? That's right. This is like the bird flu. This is a highly contagious disease that you've got right here. This is not going to be pleasant. And this is what you want your website to be like. This is what you want your webinars to be like, your blog content, all of that stuff. And you want to create a viral effect with your content. And you do that by creating really remarkable, interesting content. You optimize it really well, and you promote it in the social media sphere. And as you get better in it, you build up leverage. So, for example, if you write a blog article today, and it's your first blog article ever, and you've got 1 subscriber, if the blog article is really good, you'll get a bunch more subscribers. But fast forward a year from now, and you write a blog article and you get 8,000 subscribers, you're posting that blog article to 8,000 subscribers. You've just got a heck of a lot of leverage. Each piece of content you create is an asset on your balance sheet, essentially, your marketing balance sheet, that pulls in customers forever. So that blog article you wrote a year ago is still pulling customers in for you today. And so the math around this stuff is very, very interesting. Slightly better content, slightly bigger following in social media, slightly more subscribers can create really nonlinear effects to marketing. And traditional marketing is very linear, very much about rental. New marketing is very much nonlinear and is very much about viral effects. This is a quote I really like. Good old Ben, he was a heck of a marketer. Either write something worth reading or do something worth writing. You have to be remarkable today. You have to really produce something that raises some eyebrows if you want to get that viral effect. Okay? So that's the top of your funnel. That's how you pull people in. It's really around creating lots of content, optimizing it really well, and then promoting it really cleverly. And you can get, I've seen it 100 times, 10x more visitors to your site relatively quickly. So let's talk about once you've got that visitor, how the heck do you convert that visitor into a lead and into a customer? And there's a bunch of new technology around this stuff, and I have a bunch of new ideas around it that I'd like to talk about today. And it's really only the second time I've ever talked about this in public, so I hope folks like it. So I guess I'll ask you all a question. Google, Amazon, Facebook, Netflix, Groupon, LinkedIn. What are all these companies, what do they have in common? I'll let you think about that a little bit. Well, you write about one thing. They are incredibly successful. They're all pretty new companies, and they're just incredible. Like Google's worth $150 billion. Amazon's worth $92 billion. But, really within a decade, these monster valuable companies were created. Now, the thing I think so interesting about these companies, in a way, they all did it the same way, and it's because they're masters at conversion. They're conversion marketing gurus. They're really good about taking a user and converting them into a happy customer that sticks around for a long time. So let me walk you through how they do it, and then we have to think about how you can borrow their techniques to do the exact same thing. So let's just take Amazon.com. The first time you use Amazon.com, it's not very interesting. It's a very generic site. They have no idea what I'm interested in, and they put things on there that I may have already purchased, and it's just not a very personalized experience. The more pages I visit on Amazon.com, the smarter the site gets. The more things I buy on Amazon.com, the smarter it gets. And over time, Amazon starts really getting to know me. And it's almost like they've been bugging my phone. They understand me so well. And it gets highly, highly personalized. The more I use it, the more personalized it gets. The more I buy on it, the more personalized it gets. The more personalized it gets, the more I use it, the more I buy stuff on it. This is brilliant. And it's the same thing for all these new websites. So let's just take an example of that from Amazon that I really like this example. This is what Amazon, I cut and pasted this off of Amazon's site. It's like these guys are bugging my phone at Amazon. I'm really into Star Wars. I'm really into the Grateful Dead. I'm really into innovation, Clay Christensen's book. I'm really into startups. It's like I ended up buying most of the stuff that they recommended to me because they understood my patterns so well, and they can pattern match me against other people. They are absolutely conversion animals, and I buy stuff like crazy on there, and it works just fantastic. Netflix is the exact same. I know Netflix has got a weird brand these days and made some mistakes, but essentially it's the same. The first time you visit Netflix, it's a very generic experience, but over time they figured out that I'm a big Red Sox fan, so anything to do with the Red Sox shows up on there. I'm a big fan of documentaries, and they put documentaries up there. And what I see on Netflix and what you see on Netflix is very different. What I see on Amazon and what you see on Amazon is very different. The emails I get from them are very different than the emails you get from them. It's this hyper-contextual personalization, and this is really the future of marketing. Another nice example of that is Pandora. I use Pandora a lot. I don't know if you do. I love Pandora. I'm learning to play guitar. And every time I listen to a song, I thumbs up it or thumbs down it, and it's starting to really learn what I like and I don't like. And it's getting smarter and smarter and smarter and much more personalized and much more contextualized. The more I use it, the more I like it, the more I use it. Same with Google. They're starting to get very personalized about what they do. So I put in inbound marketing as a term, and it's very, very contextual of what I get, and it's starting to use information that it's getting from Google Plus inside of each of the search terms to try to increase the conversion rate. It's remarkable how similar all these companies are when it comes to the secret of success of the businesses. And the way I think about the way they do it is actually quite simple. So this is, let's say this is Mary Marketer up in the top, this is a pretty lady. And what these sites do, and what I think you should be doing, is every action that Mary takes on your site, on Facebook, on Twitter, whether she watches webinars, subscribes to your blog, every piece of information she gives you is information that allows you to personalize her website experience, personalize the mobile experience she gets, personalize the email she gets, and so you're building segments of one. So instead of, for example, taking your giant email list today and sending one generic email to everyone on your email list gets a very personalized email, and your conversion rates go through the roof on your emails the way they do for Netflix and for Amazon and others. Same thing for your website. I sort of think the website's gone through two generations, and we're about to go through a third. The first generation is really it's an HTML website that your brother-in-law built for you that's sort of handcrafted, very hard to change. The second generation of website is a content management system, something that looks and feels nicely, but you can add pages and change content on it. But the third generation website is really one of these personalization engines so that your business can convert like crazy the way Amazon and Netflix and all these other companies do. Depending on a person's experience with your site, the site changes automatically, the emails change automatically, and you turn your website into a conversion engine. I just like this quote from Isaac Newton. If I've seen a little further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. Isaac was a smart man. I think the giants all of us marketers should be standing on top of are these B2C companies that are so successful, like Pandora and Netflix and Google, these guys. There's a lot to learn from them. They built massive companies very, very quickly, and I think that there's some very common characteristics that we should all be borrowing. Okay, hopefully that all makes sense. That's some new stuff that I've got, new stuff that we're building into the HubSpot product that's going to be super cool around that. Fourth section, I really just want to talk about the marketing team of tomorrow. The buyers are changing a lot. The way they shop and learn has changed a lot. The marketers need to change a lot as well. And if you've got the same marketing team today as you had 6-7 years ago, and the team hasn't picked up a bunch of new skills, you may be in some trouble. You really need to think about marketing in some very new ways to match the way people shop and learn. I sort of think about the marketing industry similar to the horse and buggy industry. So the horse and buggy industry 100 years ago in 1911 had 16,000 companies in it that made saddles and benches and horseshoes and all kinds of stuff. 100 years later, there's one company left that was in the horse and buggy industry. It's a company called Timken that made the little ball bearings in the wheels. The industry completely blown apart, and the skill set that made you successful in the horse and buggy industry just did not translate well, it turned out, to the car industry. And I think marketing is going through a similar change. So all us marketers, we really need to adjust and learn. This picture here, I think is kind of a funny picture. It's who you don't want to hire. You don't want the press release hire in your marketing department. I think you know what I mean by the press release hire. You get hire that marketing person that's kind of famous. They grew up at Coke or Pepsi or some big outbound marketing company that has just a boatload of cash, and they advertise their way to success and they rent their way to success. That's just not going to work for you. You don't want to hire the ex-CMO from Coke or Pepsi or one of these huge brands. You want to hire a new style marketer. And a lot of people ask me about that new style marketer, and so I've come up with kind of an acronym to describe it, and it's DARC, DARC. The D is you want to hire people who are digital natives, who speak internet without an accent. And oftentimes these are younger people, but not always. I'll take myself as an example. I like this internet stuff. I'm kind of geeked out about it, and I'm 44 years old. But oftentimes it's people who grew up with a high-speed connection in their house when they were kids that are really good at this stuff. But my test is you want to try to find marketers who speak internet without an accent, essentially. The A is for analytical. Marketing used to be very kind of arts and craftsy and a little touchy-feely, and now it's just very numbers-driven. And my favorite question I like to ask in an interview is, please bring me your favorite spreadsheet with pivot tables and show me some brilliant counterintuitive insight that you've come up with for your company. And if they look at me sideways and say, well, what's a pivot table? I know they're not particularly analytical, but marketing's become a very analytical profession. R is for reach. 10 years ago, you wanted to hire people with a Rolodex. Today, you want to hire people with reach. And what's reach? I'll give you an example of somebody with reach that I hired here at HubSpot. His name's Dan Zarella. Dan he's got a giant following on Twitter, a giant following on his blog, and when we hired him at HubSpot, he's our social media scientist, we sort of inherited his reach with him, his tens of thousands of followers and subscribers. That's what you want to do. You want to look for an arbitrage opportunity here. Who in your industry, let's say you're in the security software business, who are the bloggers that are up and coming in the security software industry? Often those bloggers, they're doing it part-time, or they live in their mom's basement, or there's some IT guy who's miserable in his profession. How can you hire that blogger into your company and pull that reach with you? The C is for content creator. You have to be very facile with creating content, very comfortable with creating lots of content to be a great modern marketer, whether that's video content or blog content. And that's not natural for a lot of people, so you've either got to figure out a way to make it natural for yourself or find other people who it's natural for. This is actually HubSpot's marketing org chart, and it's gotten bigger recently, but in the early days it was just my co-founder and I, and then we hired Mike, who's our CMO, and then we nickeled and dimed our way here. It's taken a while to get there. But the way I think about marketing is you should have a tofu department, or how do you get a get found department, and a MOFU department, a conversion department. The tofu department is about creating content. The MOFU department is about creating context. How do you highly personalize stuff and turn your site and your emails and everything into this personalization engine? That's how I think the new org chart should look, and it should be filled to the brim with people who fit that dark description. Now, it's hard as heck to find somebody who fits all those dark criteria, so you might have to break it up into different pieces. Okay. One thing a lot of people ask me about is what's your social media policy? What's your policy on blogging? Well, here at HubSpot, we've got a four-word social media policy. It's use your best judgment. And I think that's the way to go. What you really want is all of your employees and your partners using Twitter and using Facebook and publishing on your blog and increasing your overall reach. You want to encourage everybody in your company to write on your blog, and you might be surprised at who the best bloggers are inside your company. For example, in HubSpot, you would think I would have the top blog article at HubSpot, but I don't. And the person in front of me is a guy named Pete Caputa. He's one of our sales guys who actually runs our channel program, and he's got the article right in front of me, and it absolutely drives me crazy. So you never know where the best bloggers are, but you want to build a massive reach throughout your company. You want your employees very active in there, and you want to relax a little bit and let them go. It can be a little nerve-wracking, and once in a while somebody might make a mistake, but making mistakes is not the end of the world. The thing about marketing and PR is Americans and consumers in general are very, very forgiving. I mean, let's think a little bit about Bill Clinton. Now, Bill Clinton had some troubles when he was in the White House, and people now really didn't like Bill Clinton, and still a lot of people don't like Bill Clinton. But if you look at his approval ratings today, they're actually very, very high. I'm not casting any aspersions either way on Bill, but it's very interesting how Americans have forgiven him. So if you make a mistake in marketing, it's not the end of the world. You got to let 1,000 flowers bloom. The other thing about modern marketing is you should measure often and evolve fast. So my industry, the software industry, is interesting. We went from a world where there was this waterfall style of product development where you spent a year writing the spec for a new piece of software and then a year developing the product, and then you shipped it, and the market had moved in those 2 years. Now in software development, they use something called agile product development, where they work in they call them sprints with very small teams, and the sprint can last anywhere from a week to a month. I think marketing needs to move this same way. Marketers need to do lots and lots of experimenting, lots and lots of evolving. Marketing in general has become very nonlinear, so you need to experiment a lot, see what works, and double down on the stuff that works. It's very hard to do sort of annual planning for marketing. I suggest adopting sort of agile scrum for your marketing teams. I love this picture. It's the Bugs Bunny guy. The way I think about marketing and how it's changed is traditionally marketers communicated with the marketplace via the press release. Press release was a handcrafted document written with your PR company, generally very hard to understand, full of gobbledygook sort of marketing phrases written by a bunch of people. I just think the marketplace demands that you sort of break the wall down between your company and your customers, your company and your prospects, your company and your employees. And you need to write like a human, not like a marketer, and relax a little bit. Your CEO should be publishing. Your CTO should be publishing. They should be on Twitter. You should have a very porous membrane between your company and the marketplace. And the marketplace will be very, very receptive to you if you take their input. So strongly encourage you to break the walls down between your company and your marketplace. I like this slide a lot. A lot of marketers tell me, well, I'm doing all this stuff. You know, I hired an SEO consultant, and I'm in Google, and I'm on Twitter, and I got a Facebook fan page. And they're what I call they're cocktail party compliant. So they're at the cocktail party, at the company party, and they run into the CEO's wife, and the CEO's wife starts asking questions about Twitter and Facebook and Google. And they have just enough of an answer to kind of check the box with the CEO's wife that, yeah, we're on Twitter, yeah, we rank for some keywords, and just enough to get the boss's wife off their tail. But it turns out it doesn't really work. This new marketing, it's a bit of all or nothing. And you can't just put your toe in the water. You've kind of got to jump in over your head to a certain extent, or at least up to your waist. You really got to go for it. Just having a Twitter account and tweeting once a day, just having a Facebook fan page, putting something out once a day, writing a blog article once a month, that's just not going to do it. You need to completely transform the way you think about this stuff from the bottom up, creating tons of content, optimizing that content for Google, turning yourself into a magnet for Google, getting terrific at promoting your content, Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and then getting really good at when those people visit your traditional site, that the site is very smart and the emails are very smart, that you sent them in highly contextualized. So jump in all the way. This isn't something you want to dip your toe in the water in. Okay. So that's the modern marketing department. Let's just talk I'm just going to talk a little bit about how we here at HubSpot track ourselves relative to the competition. I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to show you a couple slides that I use, for example, at our board meetings to show how we're doing. And this isn't really our competition, but it's our peer group or people we look up to in the industry. Let's take a look. Okay. The wrong one. No, 1 second. Sorry. I had too fast. Got too excited. All right. This is from one of the applications inside of HubSpot that helps us track how we're doing vis-a-vis other companies we respect. So Constant Contact, HubSpot, Salesforce.com, and NetSuite, 4 software as a service companies, all really interesting companies to us. We're much newer than these companies, and so we want to see how we're doing against the Joneses. And what I like about this is it grades us along a bunch of different dimensions. So Website Grade is HubSpot's proprietary algorithm that basically looks at your inbound marketing skill, and all these companies, including us, have a high grade. Moz Rank's interesting. That's a proxy for what Google thinks of you, and it's a scale of 1 to 10. And all these companies seem to be doing pretty well on that as well. Traffic Rank, this is your Alexa rank, so the lower the number, the better. And the number 1 traffic rank in the world now is Google. Number 2 is Facebook. I don't know what number 3 is, but you can see Constant Contact's doing very well. They get a ton of traffic. Salesforce, we're doing pretty well ourselves. There's NetSuite. And you should be tracking how you're doing vis-a-vis your competition. How many pages on your site? How many other websites link to you? What's your blog grade? How many Facebook fans do you have relative to your peers? How many Twitter followers do you have? And then what you want to do is just kind of track them over time. And so this is the Alexa rank, for example, for HubSpot vis-a-vis Salesforce, Constant Contact, and NetSuite. So you can see HubSpot's kind of moving up to the right. Constant Contact and Salesforce, it's a slippery rock at the top, but they're both doing pretty well. NetSuite's fallen off a little bit in terms of their traffic. This is the kind of stuff our board loves and I love as a CEO to see. Then one other thing I like to look at is how does my business compare in terms of my ratios, visit to lead ratio, how many leads do we get, what's my funnel shape relative to my peers. And this is part of an application we have in HubSpot that's cool, that you can look at it versus all of our customers versus your competitors versus companies between 10 and 200 employees who have who are based in Minneapolis. You can sort it a million different ways. So these are some good ways to compare yourself to the competition. But if you're creating a ton of content and you're optimizing that content and you're really getting good at contextual, personalized marketing for your visitors, you're going to bury everybody on those charts. So I really like this picture. It's a picture of the Imperial Palace in Japan. I used to live in Japan, and I used to run by this all the time. And why I did it reminds me of my favorite philosopher. My favorite philosopher is a guy named Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett always tells the CEOs, what you want for your business is you want a moat around it. You want that moat to be deep. You want it to be ice cold. You want to put alligators in it and sharks in it. And you want to make it really hard for people to compete with you. And in my mind, the new modern moat is this internet marketing stuff. How many Twitter followers you have, Facebook fans, how many keywords you rank for in Google, et cetera, et cetera. That's the moat around your business. That's very hard to compete with. And my favorite example of that is Zappos. So many of you probably use Zappos. And when I think about Zappos, let's just say you and I wanted to start a company to compete with Zappos, and we're going to go after these guys. We're going to sell shoes online. I think we could figure a lot of that out. We could get the inventory. It would be a little complicated. We'd need some specialized skills. The part that would be nearly impossible to beat them on is this inbound marketing stuff. They have millions of Twitter followers, millions of Facebook fans. They rank for millions of keywords in Google. They just dominate in their industry. And that, my friends, is very, very hard to compete with. That's a modern kind of barrier to entry that's really very, very hard to compete with. So this is the stuff you need to do to wail on your competition. If you like this stuff and you want to learn more, you can pick our book, Inbound Marketing. It's very popular. Have a look at that. Or you can come, if you want somebody from my staff, we have about 300 people here. A lot of them are geeked out MIT guys. If you want somebody to do an assessment of how you're doing on your content and your context, on your top of the funnel and your middle of the funnel, go to www.hubspot.com/IMA. No pressure, but if you're interested in doing it, we would love to help. And that's all I've got today. I think I'll take a question or two if we've got them, Maggie.
Yeah, we have a bunch of questions, and congratulations for getting the hashtag to trend in the United States. You guys were great at participating on Twitter and sharing your thoughts and comments. This is fantastic. So I'll start with a question by Steve, Brian. He was saying that your presentation seems very applicable to B2C rather than B2B. So is that right? Or if it's not, can you give any examples and elaborate more on B2B?
Yeah. Steve, that's a really good point. I actually watched I think the B2C folks are just way ahead of the B2B folks. And so what I do as founder of HubSpot is I try to learn from those folks and take the practices the B2C folks are doing and apply them to B2B. So my presentation is actually targeted mostly to B2B companies. Most of my customers at HubSpot are B2B. What I want to do is take the black belt stuff that those guys are doing, they're so good, some of them, and translate them into the B2B world. So this stuff works for B2B just as well, if not better, than B2C. My company is an example. We use all these tools, and we've gone from, two of us starting at 5 years ago to 300 now. And we're sort of the case study for it. We're B2B. We sell to other businesses. So really applicable to B2B.
Great. And Tracy had a question about the personalization part that you talked about. How would that look like for my company and for my business? How can I personalize content the way you were talking about it?
Yep. The way I think about personalization has changed. I've thought a lot about this over the last year, and we're building a bunch of new stuff around this. But the way I sort of think about it is, let's say somebody visits your website and they fill out a form on your landing page, and they come into your database, essentially. Let's say you use HubSpot, the HubSpot database. What happens is you get that record, you get the information from the form, their name and the telephone number, whatever's on the form, the email address. And then what a system like HubSpot would do, or a system you should set up, is it should go automatically find that person in Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, should find them, for example, on Hoovers or some other service, and then should start tracking them over time and listening to everything they're doing on Facebook and Twitter, on your site, blogs, et cetera, et cetera. And so the information about that person who filled out the form becomes like this dossier and becomes very rich. And then what you want to do with that information is you want to segment it. You want to segment it in many different ways. So let's say you've got 1,000 people in your database, and what you want to do is, for example, send an email to them, and you want that email to be only to left-handed plumbers in Minneapolis. So you set those rules up, and you send a very contextualized email to that person. If you send those very highly segmented, personalized emails, they convert much higher. The other thing you can do is have, and this is new technology just coming out, the website change based on what they said. So, for example, one of the pieces of information you might know about someone, they didn't give you the correct email information. They said they gave you their Gmail, and they didn't tell you the proper company. But when they visit your site, you can do what's called a reverse IP lookup and figure out that the person is actually coming from Pfizer, for example, and you can do something like welcome Pfizer on the page. I think your website should be more like an application, too. So that person who fills out your form, they're registered in your website. And it's a little bit like Google, where you've got the black bar on the top. Once you're registered, every time they come back to your site, the site remembers you. It says welcome to the person's name, and you start teeing up very personalized information to the person over time that just converts them like crazy. This is where the world is going. I think it's just awesome. The other thing you can do with this contextual information is, based on all this information you have about the person, if you've got sales reps, you can do a very advanced system with your sales rep, where every time that person revisits your site, the sales rep will get an email. Every time that person tweets something interesting, the sales rep gets an email. So the sales rep can sort of stalk that person, I hate to use that word, in a very modern way. So pull the information into the database, enrich the information about that person, segment that person, nurture the person via email, give them contextual, unique website experiences, and then keep that sales rep abreast of what's going on. So there's a bunch of new technology coming out these days that does that is just friggin' cool. I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. And here's a question by Anita. She was asking, what if your company doesn't have a social media policy or doesn't allow social media? In specific, in her company, the focus is to block any distractions, and that's probably similar for other people as well.
Yeah. I think that's happening. I think you're going to be stuck in a horse and buggy world, and the car's going to come out if that's the case. It turns out your customers have really changed, and you know, whether you like it or not, everyone's on Google. Even my mom is on Facebook. I mean, it's just this stuff has become very mainstream, and you need to knock some sense into the leadership of your company. And allow the employees to start marketing through these channels. This is where people live. Stop buying billboard ads. No one's watching those billboards. Stop buying television ads. Stop buying newspaper ads. Stop buying Google AdWords. It's just so hard to make the math work on any of that stuff. Pull them in through Google and Twitter and Facebook. It's dirt cheap, and it just works. One thing you can do to help convince your leadership. One is you can give them my book. It's about a 4 or 5 hour read. That's very self-serving, but it will work. Another thing you do is go to websitegrader.com, HubSpot's tool, and put your company in there and your competitor's company and get scores and compare them and share that with people. We have another tool called twittergrader.com. You can put your company in there and your competitors' companies and grade them that way. So deep down, most people are pretty competitive. If you can use some of that information to convince your management, you'll be better off. But folks, in your company, you need to make some changes. You need to be a change agent. This is the chance for you to become a superstar in your company and transform the way they market.
Awesome. And the last question today comes from Chris. For someone who is new to inbound marketing, what are the 3 things you would recommend to get started?
I would run a website grader report. Stay tuned for a new revision to that tomorrow. Actually, we have a big announcement around Website Grader. I'd buy my book and read it, and I would sign up for an IMA at HubSpot. Go to HubSpot.com and sign up for an inbound marketing assessment, and one of my gurus will spend 20 minutes with you strategizing about what you can do. Those are 3 easy things you can do. The nice thing about inbound marketing is it's reachable. It's not rocket science. You can do it. It's a little different, and change is always hard. But we're not asking you to do rocket science here.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. This was a wonderful presentation. Thank you all for joining us